Could you tell us how the report's made up? What's the methodology behind the report?
It's a bit complex. It includes a lot of information about each players, including the likes of the team where the player is, the history of transfers is not the same. A team in the same player in one team has nothing to do with the same player in another team in terms of the capacity to sell or the size of the team. Some demographics also, and one of the key factors, especially when we're talking about young talent, is the percentage of minutes played. So at the end of the day, we're talking young players, and what makes them really valuable is their experience on field. And this was one of the factors that has been taken more into account, because we're talking about very young players participating at a really senior level.
Okay, obviously, you know the report from back to front. What trends does the report tell us about the value of young players in Europe?
Obviously, I mean, this is the first time we do the report, but what we've been seeing is that more and more young players, we see more and more transfer of young players with high values. This has to do with different factors, including the fact that more and more the teams tend to kind of promote more their homegrown talent, sometimes just because it's a philosophy, sometimes it's just because it's a necessity. But at the end of the day, we found out a large number of players having played more than half of the minutes of their team, which is remarkable. And as a result, especially if we're talking about players that are in top teams, it ends up showing up really high values.
The report seems to show that young defenders are becoming increasingly valuable. Why do you think that's the case?
I would say defenders in general are quite valuable. It's not easy to find a good centre back. So those defenders that made it to the top 20 that we're talking about are definitely really highly valuable players, because they are playing regularly at the highest level. Plus, they are very young. So if on top of it we take the likes of John Stones playing the Premier League and having a British passport, that makes it even easier for his value to go up.
You mentioned John Stones in the Premier League. They have the most expensive talent. Why is the most expensive talent based in the Premier League?
I would say that's because I would say it's regulation at the end of the day. The domestic market, especially of English players, is showing more and more of an inflation. The fact that Sterling is number one, there's an important factor into his calculation, in the sense that he's under 20 player already playing regularly for his team at Liverpool, but also playing regularly in the national team, the A team, right? So that has to do with the fact also that there's a regulation in England which makes the teams have at least 8 homegrown players, meaning players that have been in the system, in the academy system of the team for at least 3 years while they were under 21. So that means that some teams are short of English players, and those available in the market or those that their teams are prepared to sell are more expensive, and there's an important inflation on them.
German football has been very successful at club and international level in recent years. Are you surprised that the Bundesliga has the least valuable players out of the big 5 countries?
It's not really a surprise, and again, I mean, it may not be that there are players in the top 20, but there's plenty of them. We've analyzed thousands of players to come up with a report. But it's true that there's not so many German players that have been successful abroad. So probably this time is a coincidence. I guess that once we keep on doing the report in the future, we'll see that this is something that gets consolidated, or is just one short time.
In terms of numbers, it would appear not so many players are coming out of countries such as Holland, Portugal and Italy as before. Why is that, do you think?
I mean, we're talking. You were mentioning countries that normally produce lots of good players that are sent abroad, and there are many players from these nationalities down in the report. We're just selecting the top 20, but more importantly, again, as I was mentioning before, the percentage of minutes played is one of the key factors considered in the report, and this time we happen to have a large number of top players that have played a lot at senior level, and it happened to be that they were not from these places, but still we have Depay, number 3 in the report, and plenty of other players around.
For you, what was the most interesting information that came out of this report?
I would say the confirmation of the inflation that's coming, that is arising from the rules in the UK, not just because of the UEFA regulations, but also, as I was mentioning before, the fact that you need to have at least 8 homegrown players in your squad out of 25 squad. That makes them extremely valuable, and probably then the high amount of defenders that we have in the report, 9 out of 20 is quite a lot.
It is a lot. What do you think the trend will be for the next 5 years in terms of the report and the value of young players?
I think we will continue in this direction. More and more we'll find young players highly expensive. And for instance, in the top 20, we have a Belgian player that is only 18 years old, and this will continue to happen. Again, just because of the fact that the teams are, either because of strategy or because of necessity, are prepared to give more minutes to the young talent. As long as that continues to happen, this type of players will end up becoming sort of currency, and the more opportunities they have to play, the more transfers there will be about them, and as a result, the more value.
Before we talk about some of those players individually, what's next for Soccerex and Primetime Sport?
Well, obviously this is an exciting collaboration. We've been working together not just in this report, but also on the Soccerex transfer review that we're presenting together for the last couple of years, and it's exciting to be ready to present our report out of the summer transfer window. That's going to happen in September in the Global Convention. Hopefully there will be plenty of news to share. Last year we reported record high figures in terms of transfers with the Premier League surpassing 1 billion in transfers, and it looks like it may still be the case that this season is strong. Let's keep in mind that there are leagues in which we expect significant revenue growth. We've got the new TV rights coming soon in England, which is going to be more money available for English teams, but also we have the same situation in Spain. So there is a situation in which before most of the deals would be concentrated by Barcelona and Real Madrid, but now with the new TV rights system in place in Spain, which is centralized, in average all the teams will have between 10 and 15 million more revenues on TV rights. Even if it would be as of next year, it's under discussion at the moment, but it's more available money, and as a result, we should expect a very busy transfer window.
One of the players who might be busy in the transfer window this summer is your number 1 player, and it's Raheem Sterling at Liverpool. What do you think about him, and what do you think is going to happen with his future this summer?
Well, I guess we should ask himself and his current team, Liverpool. Obviously, as we were mentioning before, he kind of has it all to have a high valuation, extremely young player, playing in a forward position, playing in a top team, being a regular in the national team, having a good personality, which makes him appealing for brands in terms of media value. So all in all, and of course having a British passport makes him extremely valuable. It's with the numbers that we're talking about, the only thing we can say is that of course not any team can afford him, and we'll see what happens during the summer.
So do you think he'll be a target for clubs in England and possibly abroad as well, maybe Spain?
I would say so. As far as I know, he has not agreed new terms with Liverpool, despite the club publicly said they offered him a new contract. I don't know exactly what's happening, but everything looks like there will be a move this summer. So it will be interesting to see where he goes. In terms of Spain, it would be probably one of the first time in which there's a transfer of this caliber. Of course, we had Gareth Bale that went to Real Madrid, but traditionally there's not so many English players that have been successful in Spain. So let's see, I would guess his market is definitely in the UK, again because of the fact that he adds up one more British player or English player into the team, which is not just a necessity in terms of the quality he brings into the team, but also in terms of the passport that he brings along.
Passport is obviously key. You mentioned Memphis Depay, who's already gone to Manchester United. There's a few other players in the Premier League there, Everton and Arsenal, for example. Who else on the list can we expect to make a big move this summer, do you think?
That's a question to ask the players and the teams. I would say those players that are in the list and are not yet in a top team. So you know, Tielemans from Anderlecht, Talisca from Benfica. There's some players. We have a player, Kalanoglu, which is at Bayer Leverkusen. Also, all these players that have all the components to make them extremely valuable, and I would say that are targets or can be targets at any time. Martial, who's playing for Monaco, he's been in the news that the Spurs could be interested on him. So we're talking very young players, and those of them having a European passport would be targets of any of the top teams at any time.
Fantastic.